Listen. I have been eating a lot of candies recently. I think that's why my heart is being a bit more heavier than usual. Can you please fudge the scale a bit and let me pass?
Nope.
Hey guys, welcome to the new video. For this one, I'm gonna be switching gears a bit. I have been doing a lot of anime recently, and don't get me wrong, I love doing those. But for this video, we're gonna go divine. We're gonna be painting the coolest looking god there is, Anubis. Did you know that Anubis is an ancient Egyptian god of the underworld, and that one of his main roles was to weight the hearts of the deceased against the feather of truth and justice? If the heart was lighter than the feather, the deceased soul could enter the underworld. But if the heart was heavier than the feather, the monster came and ate the soul of the deceased and it stopped to exist. Brutal. There are so much more fascinating stories about Anubis, but today we're gonna be focusing on this model. We're gonna make it look amazing, esteemed and worthy of a god. So, if you're interested in creating this model yourself, and you like how mine turned out, you can follow this step-by-step guide. This model was made by CA3D Studios, and you can find the link in the descriptions below. Also, here's the list of all the colors I used on the model. If you have those, you can follow with the video step by step and get the exact same model at the end as I did. But, you don't need these exact shades. If you have something similar or you think that something else could look better, you are welcome to try it out. Painting is all about experimenting, making mistakes, fixing those mistakes and getting something cool at the end that you're satisfied with. So let's get to the fun part and start painting. First, I have to say that this model is very good for beginners. It's very forgiving. If you make a mistake, you will be able to fix it very quickly and easily. I will show you in the video how to do it. Also, most mistakes won't even be visible. If you watched my previous videos, you already know my procedure, so I'm just gonna shorten it here. Print it, wash it, cure it. And if the model is hollow, like this one, it's a good practice to use little UV LED lights to cure it from inside, so you're sure you won't have any problems with the model in the future. Now for the base. I decided to print it with a clear resin. If you look at the resin in the vat here, you will see that it doesn't really look clear, right? These are just bubbles of air. This usually happens when you pour the resin directly from the bottle, especially if you shook the bottle beforehand. So if you have something like this happening, don't just start the print right away. Take a break and go watch a TV or something for 20 minutes and let all the air bubbles rise to the surface. For those little stubborn bubbles at the surface, just take a heat gun, a hairdryer or something similar and just blast them with the heat. They will disappear right away. There shouldn't be air in the resin before starting to print, because it could cause little holes in your model when it's done. Okay, now we're gonna do post-processing for the clear resin, but we're gonna do it a bit differently than the post-processing for the normal gray resin. First, you need to wash it in a clean IPA. Don't just reuse some old IPA that you have, or it's gonna get tainted. Also clean it for around 2 minutes, or it's gonna start to yellow if left for too long. After that, put it in a clean hot water to soak up a bit, so we can more easily remove the supports. After removing supports, put it again in the wash for another 2 minutes. Before curing, let it dry completely. I use this food dryer to quickly dry my models because I don't want to wait, but you can just let it sit on the desk for some time until it's nice and dry. Now for the curing, do it around 2 to 3 minutes or it will start to yellow. I think you get the point. With clear resin, everything can cause staining or yellowing, so we need to keep it to the minimum. So at the end, we get this. I know what you want to say. It doesn't look really clear. And what is this line in the middle? I want to explain this to you because I think it's important. So let's rewind back and look at this base in a slicer. I'm gonna use lychee slicer for this. As you can see, the base for this model comes pre-supported and not supported, but in both cases it's split in 2 parts. The thing is, I really don't like printing clear resin in multiple parts, because if there are gaps in the model and I need to fill those gaps with milliput, I cannot do it on clear resin, because it will look terrible. So what can we do? Well, we can merge these 2 parts together. We're gonna delete the pre-supported parts and import non-supported. What you wanna do now is select both parts, go to Move and click Original. This will move all the parts to their original position, and if the model was done correctly, they should fit together. And as you can see here, they do. Now drag the model back to the build plate and use on-screen controls to rotate both parts together. They should be parallel to the build plate. Now you can go around the model and find some point where you can see clearly if the parts fit together perfectly. If there's a bit mismatch, like you can see here, just drag one model a bit until they fit together and are flashed evenly. After it looks okay, select both parts, go to the tools, merge, and now you have one model. Great. Next step is to hollow it. Usually I don't hollow clear resins. Hollowing will cause it to be less clear and it will cause clouding. So if you want the base to be clear and transparent, you will need to print it in one solid piece. I'm always doing it like that when I'm printing something like water or fire with clear resin, and I want it to be very clear and very glass-like. If you want to know how to do that, check out this video that I'm gonna link above. This is my previous video where I printed Fire Fist Ace from one piece, and we did the flames with clear resin, and we wanted them to look very clear, glass-like and transparent. So check that video if you want to do it in this way. For this base on this model, it didn't really matter to me. This base represents dirt, smoke, ghosts, the underworld in short, and I wanted it to look dark and gloomy. And for that purpose, it doesn't need to be transparent, so I just hollow it to save on resin. Okay, now you know why the base looks cloudy after the post-processing. Now let's explain that line in the middle that looks a bit clearer than the rest of the model. This happens because even after merging the two parts of the base together, we still have the leftover walls. So after you hollow the model base, the wall in the middle is still there. That's why that line in the middle of the base looks a bit clearer than the rest of the model, because here we have a solid model and the rest is hollowed. Now just watch out when you go and add drain hose to this base, you need to add hose on the both sides of the wall. You can also add hose in the wall if you want to connect the two parts together. Okay, now that everything is done, position it on the plate, add supports, and we're good to go. Oof. Now we can go back where we left off. Now you know why this model looks a bit more cloudy and why we have that line in the middle. If something is not clear, you can just drop the question in the comments. I will answer all your questions. Okay, let's move on. Like always, first we're gonna sand the model. But I must say the pre-supports on this one are excellent and I had barely anything to clean or sand. For the parts I did sand, I like using these sanding sponges with different grits. You can use them on any surface, they form around the parts that you're sanding, and later you can just wash them and reuse them again. Also, they are very good if you're doing wet sanding. When that's done, we're gonna reuse this drain hose and put some sticks in them, so we can easily manipulate them and paint them. I think you can find a bunch of these bamboo sticks on Temu for very cheap. Now that everything is prepared, it's time to prime it. I'm gonna use this black primer from Vallejo and prime all the parts except the base. I repeat, don't prime the base. For the base, we're gonna use alcohol inks, and from my experience, all of these alcohol inks are the same. For example, this violet color that I'm using I bought on Temu, and it does the same job as the ones I bought on Amazon. You don't need to thin them down, they're already thin enough. Okay, now let's color this base. The rule when using alcohol inks on clear resin is to go from lighter tone to the darker tone, because once you taint the clear resin with a darker tone, everything lighter over it will not be very visible. I'm gonna use this violet color on the whole base, and you can decide how dark you wanna go. The more passes you do, the darker it will look. For me personally, I wanted it to look pretty dark. After violet, I used black color alcohol ink and sprayed it on tips and edges, practically all the raised parts of the model. You will also see faces of the deads and ghosts on the base, so try to avoid those with the black color ink. After you're done with the black, take the white alcohol ink and spray it on those faces coming out of the smoke. You can see here, since violet is darker than the white, you can see white is having a very little effect, but still it's just enough to make the faces pop up a little and separate them from the rest of the base. And that's it. I think we're gonna get back to the airbrush just a little bit in the future, but this is pretty much it. To color the model, we're gonna use dry brushing for about 80% of the model, or even more. So grab some old dry brush, warm up your wrists, and let's get to it. We're gonna start by using charcoal from Vallejo and oak brown from Warpaints. Mix them in ratio 60:40, so 60% charcoal, 40% oak brown. When doing dry brushing, I like to keep colors on something solid, like a plastic palette, not a wet palette. It's easier to get rid of the excess paint when paints are drier. Now rub a brush into a paper towel until it starts to leave just a bit of color, very faintly. This is very important. You can always add more color later, but putting too much paint on the model, it's not gonna look good. So rub it and rub some more, and only when you see that there's just a tiny bit of paint left on the paper towel, then start using it on the model. When you are ready, start dry brushing the model. Pretend like you're sweeping the floor. There is no need for excessive force. Just back and forth. You will see how the model starts sketching little pieces of paint, especially the most raised parts of the model. Do this on all the skin parts. So brush it, put a paint on the brush, dry the paint on the paper towel, and repeat. When you're done, clean the brush, let it dry, and now we're gonna use deep gray. Now do the same thing, and concentrate on the muscles. Don't go into concave places. Just go through the raised parts, like abs, legs, biceps, everything that pops out. On the head, concentrate on the upper part of the face and ears. Imagine there is a sun above the head of the model, so where would the sun shine the most? That's where you're gonna dry brush. After you're done, clean the brush, let it dry, and we have one more round. We're gonna use ash gray. The procedure is the same, but this time use it just on the top of the muscles, not the whole muscle. This is gonna be our highlight, so use it on the most raised parts where the sun would shine the most. And this is it. If you went a bit overboard with the ash gray on some parts of the model, like I did on the face, just grab deep gray again and go over it to tone it down. Now take some Noun oil and spray all the skin parts that we dry brushed. This will make the skin nicer, smoother, and it will blend the transitions. Go little by little, one layer, let it dry. If you need, add a second layer, maybe even third. Make the model darker, because Anubis is supposed to have dark skin, but make sure that all the dry brushed undertone is still visible underneath. We need to be able to see separations between the highlights and the darker parts on the skin, so don't go overboard. Okay, that's it for the skin tones. Let's move on to the armor. I'm gonna use Greedy Gold, but you can pick whatever gold color you have. Again, we're gonna dry brush it. Remove all the extra paints that you have on the brush by wiping it on the paper towel and swipe through the armor and the decorations on the weapon. Don't use force and don't push the brush in. You don't want the paint to get in all the crevices. The highest raised parts of the armor will catch the paint and concave places will stay dark. That's how it should be. This will make all the details of the armor pop out more. If you look around the model now, you will see that around his neck, under the armor, and on his legs, he has something that looks to me like old rags. We're gonna take charred brown paint and just paint them all. Watch out so you don't get it on the skin tones. Let it dry, then grab earth color from Vallejo and dry brush all the fabric that we covered. Again, nice and easy, like sweeping the floor. You just want traces of the color on the model. You don't want to paint everything. After earth color, grab charcoal and do the same thing. You really don't need to hit all the spots, just make it random. The last one is grungy brown, and with this one we're gonna start the same. We're gonna wipe the excess paint off the brush by using paper towels, but now, instead of sweeping, like we did before, we're gonna stab the model in random places. Stab it and stab it again. Just stab it in random places, you don't need to cover everything. Make it random. That's it for the fabric. We're gonna move on to the bandages now. Use Deck Tan or some other lighter tone to paint all the bandages on the model, on the torso, legs, hands, all around. After that, take Skeleton Horde contrast paint and go over all the bandages again. We're gonna do this a few different times with different washes, and you don't need to be particularly careful to cover everything. Just take bigger brush and swipe away. If a bit of color gets on the skin tone, it won't be very visible. As I said at the beginning, this model is very good for beginners and very forgiving. After Skeleton Horde dries, use dark red tone and repeat the same thing. You need like 10 seconds per body part, just swipe away, don't waste time trying to be precise. After dark red tone is dry, do the same thing with strong tone wash. Also, if at any point you think to yourself, well, this looks pretty good enough already, you can stop, you don't need to follow me until the end. But if you wanna get the same kind of look of bandages as I did, continue on. Now we're gonna use a combination of Deck 10 and Wash Medium. I mix them like this: 10 drops of Wash Medium, 3 drops of Deck 10, and 30 drops of water. Now just go and make random lines on the bandages. You don't need to cover everything, just swipe them on random places with different lengths and different thickness. Let it dry good, and the last step is to take Noun oil and paint it over everything. I mean over all the bandages. This will connect the colors, tone down the whites, and make it look like old ripped bandages. Okay, moving on. Take Grungy Brown and you will see something like leather straps on his back, chests, hands and legs. Use this brown to paint those. After it dries, take soft tone wash and swipe it over those leather straps again. This will give them a bit more depth and make them look like real leather. Now we're gonna do the decorations. Take Blood Angels red paint and color those flags on the chest. Since the undertone is gold metallic color, they will look a bit metallic, so if you want you can first color them with some lighter tone like Deck 10 and then put the red over it. But I really liked how they turned out when I painted over the gold undertone, so I left them like that. Now what you wanna do is take some dead white, go around the model and the weapon and find a stuff that could look like diamonds and pearls, usually the round stuff. Everything that you want to turn into some kind of diamond decoration, paint those white. You can pick whichever ones you want, but be sure to do the scarab beetle on the chest, he's gonna look really cool. Now go and find some colors that you like, you can pick whichever ones you want, and just start coloring those diamonds. Don't go overboard and make it look like a clown, but 2, 3, maybe even 4 colors are all good. I first used dark green for the ones on the chest, hand and weapon. After that I used Tamiya color clear blue for the main ones on the hand, legs and scarab on the chest. This color looks really cool and shiny when it dries. Also watch how I did the scarab beetle. I didn't cover it whole, I left the head part white. We're gonna paint this part with gold, it's gonna look really cool. After that I took some bloody red and did some of the diamonds on hands and weapons with that one. I used Basilisk red on the rest of the diamonds and decorations, and I used black color on that one diamond under the scarab beetle. As you can see, this is pure decorations and you can do it however you want. We just got a few things left now. On the weapon we're gonna use Blood Angels red for those ribbons flying around. Put a few coats here to cover all the black undertone as much as possible. Also, if you used some kind of red on any of the diamonds like I did, paint over them with Blood Angels red, it will make them pop out more. Now the head, we've got a few simple things here. Fortunately doing eyes on this model is very simple. First we're gonna grab charcoal color and paint the nose. Start in the middle and expand it little by little, you don't wanna make it too big. For the eyes I just used dead white. I think it looks cool, but if you want you can use yellow, red, pick whatever color you want. For me white fits perfectly. Or if you want to, you can even draw iris and pupil. I don't know, you can do whatever you wish here. Oh yeah, and I forgot about that ring on the finger. I just colored it all with gold and used wolf grey for the middle part. Now let's go and finish up the weapon. Get your dry brush ready, take some charcoal color and just dry brush all the black parts. We're gonna go from darker to the lighter, just as we did for the skin. So now take deep grey and dry brush it again. Since the weapon is round and doesn't really have edges for the paint to attach, just do it in some random places. And the last one is ash grey. Again, just dry brush it in some random places. By doing it like this, we got a pattern that looks like some high-class marble, and I really like how it goes with this model. Let's not forget about that scarab beetle head that we left white. Just take a gold color and paint over it. Try to make the clean lines, and this separation between the gold and this clear blue, it's gonna look really nice. That's it, guys, the model is finished. What you can do now is take two main colors, charcoal and gold, and go around the model to fix any mistakes that you might have. Use normal brush for this, since dry brushing is not very precise. Go around the edges, make clean lines, especially around the diamonds. Same thing with the charcoal. If you have any color spilling onto the skin tones, use it to fix it. For example, here, if you see it on the camera, I have a gold color from dry brushing that somehow made it to the skin tones. To fix this, first I like to thin the paint down. Apply it, and then use these makeup mini brushes to absorb the paint before it gets dry. I do this a few times. It will tint the skin color where there are mistakes, but it will still blend well and look like the texture that we made with the dry brush. Here I had the idea to highlight the edges of the sword with the gold color, so put the color on the brush, make sure it's dry so it doesn't drip from the brush, tilt the brush sideways and go along the edges. The line will look clean and straight. Last thing we're gonna do is to varnish and protect the model. So first I'm gonna use satin varnish and spray the whole model, all the parts including the base. Let it dry, and now take matte varnish and spray it over the skin tones, those ribbons on the weapon, and pieces of the cloths on the legs and under the armor. Let it dry again, and the last part is to take gloss varnish and apply it on all the shiny things with a normal brush, like all the diamonds, that scarab beetle, and the eyes of the model. I liked how satin varnish looked on the base, so I left it, but if you want you can maybe spray it with gloss varnish. I just didn't really think that the glossy base will fit this model. This is it, guys, hope you made it through. Now let's see the result of all this hard work. Roll it. And this is the end of another video. If you have some questions, leave them in the comments and I will answer all of them. If this video was helpful, please leave me a like, subscribe and share a video. I wanna grow this channel and record a lot more tutorials for you guys. I would also like to hear from you about which model to paint in my future videos. Maybe we can do some kind of vote in a community posts. Also don't forget to check community post for the list of all the colors I used on this model. For the next video, I'm planning something really cool. I'm gonna try to add audio box inside of the model, and I'll try to show you step by step how to do it. So see you soon in the next video. Bye!